Now, if you've watched this show before, you know these are colors I'm not Miss Pink person. Okay, here comes a good one. Something unexpected in the shadows. I like to put unexpected things everywhere. I don't know, you ever remember being a kid and playing with the shadows on the wall and doing little birds? Hi, welcome to Give Your Walls Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom. Today we're going to be working on a really interesting piece. I went to the beach and took all these pictures of horses on the beach and seagulls and all kinds of really cool things in nature. And then I walked by this antique shop and I saw this doorknob, and it was so cool. It totally inspired me. So today what we're going to do is watch how the play of light hits on wood and this really old, crusty, rusty knob. It just is awesome. And the colors are really different, a different departure from what we've been doing. So let's get started. Today's totally a purple violet day. I'm going to take some carbazole violet, and I'm going to start mixing the, I'll mix the light first. Mix that with some light and see what we get. Oh, that's pretty. Now, it's too bright. It's too in your face, at least for what we're doing right here. But we'll change that. How do we change that? Okay, so first of all, it's too dark. So we'll add some orange to that, some cad yellow deep. So I'm going to clean my brush and clean my knife. Add a little bit of cad yellow deep, just a little bit. That'll tone that down. It's going to make it warmer. Ooh, that's gorgeous. Can I use that somewhere? No, but I like the color. Okay, I'm going to push some of this aside. So if I keep adding white to this, I'll have this huge, I'll use a whole tube of white before we get to the color that we want. So I'm going to push even more of this aside. We'll save that for later. And I'll add some white to this. Ooh, that's pretty. Is that closer? Yeah. So the questions you ask yourself when you're mixing colors is it darker or lighter than what you see? And is it brighter or duller than what you see? And you adjust accordingly. So I'm going to take a look at this and see how close is this. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, that's a good mid-range color right here. And then, let's see, what does the dark look like? This is pretty good for the dark. Those might, well, no, I think I need to cool it down a little bit more. And you know what, I don't see any ultramarine blue. I didn't put that on my palette, so I'm going to do that now. And I wanted to cool it down with the ultramarine blue as opposed to that phthalo turquoise. That phthalo turquoise make it a little too bright. This will dull it down. Yeah, that's pretty. Now that's interesting because it actually made it a little brighter. I'm going to save that and make yet another mix with just the blue. There we go. There's a nice serious dark. All right, we have enough to get started. Let's get some paint on the canvas. I know there are some people that just get really timid about putting the paint down. And we're just going to start scribbling. I'm going to grab a good brush for the darks. nice stiff brush to outline that, and we'll get going. All right, so what do I want to put in first? I want to make a map, so I'm going to take this darkest dark and draw my reference photo here, and draw in just some of the darker areas. So we've got some shadow here, and it doesn't have to be perfect. The cool thing about this door is it's old, it's crusty, so things aren't going to line up. I like that when I don't have to be that careful. Okay, so there's some dark there. Kind of goes like this. Shadow here. That's good for that. Move a little bit over on this side. Kind of lines up with that one. I don't think this doorknob even worked anymore. I also like doing things way, I mean, this is such, the sense of scale is so much larger than life. Really adds to it. Okay, so we have that. What's going on with this? You can see where the other, there was another doorknob here, another plate, and it's like a phantom that now it's gone, but it's still got the indentation. It's been painted over a million times. And so I'm going to put that in too, because that adds some interest. We'll move this out. And a little bit, we can even have some paint drips. Oh, it's going to be wonderful. You can tell they didn't sand this at all. And I'm glad, because it wouldn't be as interesting. All right, I'm going to connect the dots here. That's close enough. All right, let's do the shadow. Let's see, what do I see here? I'm going to pull a little bit of this color and just pull it up to the reference photo. I think it needs a little more orange. So we'll get some Cad Yellow Deep. It looks like orange to me, but it's called Cad Yellow Deep. So I use these two terms interchangeably. Okay, that dulled it down a little bit, but it's nice and warm. Let's see if that's the right color. That's pretty good. All right, we'll use that. Gonna get a big scruffy brush and just base this in. Not being too careful. That's not fun. Just putting the paint down. You can be careful later if you want. Oh, that's cool. I'm just going to scrub this in. I love doors. They're so mysterious. Always makes you wonder what's behind there, what's inside. Yeah, that's good. That's a happy sound. You get in a room with a bunch of painters, and it's like a symphony. Depending on who you're painting with, could be a silly symphony. Okay, so we've got a shadow. Right now, it just looks like some big old blob, and that's what it is. But we'll turn it into something else. All right, so let's find another good scruffy brush. Is this scruffy enough? No. I'm looking for something that's really splayed, something that's been around the block a while. And that would be this one. And I'm doing that because it's going to add more texture and, than a nice tidy brush would. All right, so where is it light? It's light on underneath the shadow here. I could even make it lighter, I think. Now that I've put it down, yeah. I'm going to move some of this over. Now it looked good on the palette, but I changed my mind once I got to the canvas. And you can do that. Changing your mind is okay. So I'm adding a ton of white, which didn't gray it down that much. So I'll move some more over. And add a bunch more here. There we go. I may add some dark in for some accents, but I think for this to really pop and really get that play of light, it needs more white. So I'll add even more of this and some cad yellow deep. If you don't add the cad yellow deep, it gets too pastel-y and it looks fake. All right. Although the director was playing around with my reference photo, she made this really cool, trippy, psychedelic version of the doorknob that might have been fun to paint. I mean, it was just wild colors. But we're doing natural, natural colors today, but God, it was awesome. Okay, this is going to read better. Yeah. Just a slight difference, but it will make all the difference in the world. I'm going right up and just barely touching this shadow. It's kind of like little kids where they don't want their food touching. You can go, well, it's still wet like that. You can just go just right next to it. Then you don't have to worry about whether they're going to be nice to each other. Got enough to worry about without having to worry about that. Okay. That's good. And I'm just scribbling this. Okay, so people who don't think they can paint, can you scribble? Can you just get the paint and start throwing it on the canvas? If so, you too can make a door. Okay, here comes a good one. I was gonna paint. There was another door that had this had these great knockers, but I mean they would have just been incredible to paint. But I didn't think that I could keep a straight face during the whole thing, so that's why we're doing the doorknob. I mean, it was like something out of a Mel Brooks movie. It wouldn't have worked. So that's why we're doing the doorknob today. Maybe we'll do an April Fool's show with knockers. Okay, I like that. Now, okay, this is going to happen to you when you're painting. All of a sudden, you see this. You get paint where you didn't want it, and see, so we've got this little bit right here. Whatever, it's okay if you get paint in the wrong place. Just blend it in, it'll be fine. And if it doesn't want to blend in, you can paint over it later. That's what's nice about oils. Very forgiving. Okay. Let's put some more paint up here. Let's see, is that light? Pretty much. Now we'll add some other color here to add interest, but I just want to get this background in. Spend some time on that doorknob. And I know there's not any red in here yet. People are worried, can she do this with no red? Yeah. There'll be red, don't worry. It'll happen. Okay. Making progress. Throw in a little more on this side. And I'm not going to be so tidy because I want to make sure that we get to the faceplate and the knob today. But you could spend a whole painting session just on trippy aspects of the door. I mean, you can, and I would, find all kinds of runs and fun little things. I like this violet. So different from what I normally do. Oh, and there's a little more violet up here as well, right above the faceplate. Scrub some of that in. Now this is a scruffy brush, so it's almost like you'd worry about it getting on the knob, but that's okay. You can just paint around it. Paint over the top. I'm actually scrubbing over some of the drawing that I had down there. Quickly get this side blocked in. And we'll add a color over the top. And for those of you that have questions, you can go to my website, shannongrissom.com, and just email me any questions that you have. And I'm really excited because now there's a Give Your Wall Some Soul blog that's interactive, so you guys can talk to me directly. It's great. Okay, we're getting there. I'm trying to just make sure that things line up pretty well. Halfway decent anyway. I'm running out of paint. This too will happen to you. You don't mix enough. And usually when I'm in class and and the students don't mix enough, they're like, I won't be able to match, and it's going to be a problem, and it's totally cool. You get as close as you can. The slight variation, ooh, I picked up some orange here that I didn't mean to get. Slight variation will add interest. Now, there's orange and there's orange. This is not the one I wanted. So I'll just pull that off. All right, so I'm adding some white to this mixture here. That's a lot lighter than what I had. Move some of this violet over. We'll see how close it is. Now I picked up some Indian yellow instead of this cad yellow deep. And that's going to make it a different warmth than the other one. I could try to match it. I'm like, whatever, let's just put it down and see what happens. It's close, and it'll add interest. It's pretty darn close. So don't worry about it. If you just sit and look at a door and the way the light hits the door, there are going to be a million different colors there. Not all going to be the same. So if you run out of paint, it's okay. Let's see, a little bit of light here. That's dark. Light here. I'm going to pick this up and turn it around so that I can get the top easily. Just things I can't reach unless I move it. So I'm going to paint part of it upside down. Got lots of medium going on here because I wanted a good base coat first. Now, if you paint upside down, that's cool, but adjust your reference photo accordingly, because otherwise you'll lose your place. But I'm just doing this blind. I'm not going to look at the reference photo, so I'm not going to change it. And by the time I need it, I'll flip it back around. Okay, now I'll turn the canvas around. Oops. Okay, well, I'm waiting a minute. Okay, so I need the good mid-tone in here. I'm going to take my dirty brush, just wipe it off a little bit. God, that's a cool door. And add some of the mid-darks. And there's a little more dark over here. So I'm just looking to see where can I find that. Not worried about the details yet. Let's see where else. Throwing some right over the top of this light. And that's going to create yet another shade. I added some dark on the top here even though I don't see it. But it's going to help that sink back. So there are things that you do from observation and things that you know over time. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to get my lighter brush and throw that in. And now we have to throw in some just little texture details here. Some right here. A little squirrely, squiggly thing that's barely perceptible from where the other faceplate was. I'm going to throw in this. If you put some dark right here, it'll start to look like this is rounded. And we'll throw some light over the top, and it'll actually make that curve happen. All right, that's a good. And now we're going to do a little bit of scribbling. And this shadow it's very stark. So I'm going to soften it just a little bit, not a lot. But I'm just going to blend where I wasn't before. So you're going to take your paper towel, wipe your brush, and just pull it over. Just soften and wipe. Get into that rhythm of softening and wipe. So it's not quite so harsh. Okay, so I'm going to take one last look at some of this squiggly stuff here. Where else can I throw in some? I mean, the door looks too clean and too new. There's a little drip there. I can throw in a little bit of light over the top, and then I have to let it go because we need to work on the faceplate. Okay. Got to pace yourself. All right, so we want some light, and that can't be anything that I've got mixed yet because that won't work. I'll take some of this white. It's got a little bit of cad yellow deep and a little bit of Indian yellow in it. And just a slight, just a touch of that lavender. And we'll highlight some places. and move on to the faceplate. Okay, so what do I see here, right? A little bit of light. And my brush is going to get dirty the further along I go. So I just have to account for that. So I'm going to start here where I need it a little cleaner. And just make that little ledge there. Where else do I see some of that light? Right. I could make this a little rounder. Oops, that's not showing up. It's invisible. There. And a little bit of, just a squiggly of some light right here. There. Little paint peeling, what would you call that? You can tell my husband didn't paint this door. It would have been sanded. It would have been perfect. This looks like a door I would paint. So you wouldn't want to hire me for that. Oh, that's fun. See how the little bit of light just helps give it some character? And you just throw it down, almost random. I'm going to put a little bit of light right up here too, because that's going to make that pop. Just right over the top of this. And I'm doing, like here I had more pressure, and then partway down it was lighter, so I'm adjusting the pressure to add some interest. And you know what? There was a little bit of just squiggly stuff right here. Yeah, that's cool. All right, so this needed a little variation. I'm just going to start at the bottom. By the time I get up to the top, it will have less paint on the brush. Don't need to do a thing. And I'll do the same thing. Move it up a little bit. Okay. And the inside of the door, let's see, this needs to kind of, let's just move this up straight here for some interest. There we go. Right through the shadow. That's good. Blend it out a little bit. That's what you do with whoops. You just blend it out a little. Okay, there we go. All right, now step back and look at it. Yeah, okay, so it's starting to look like lights hitting the door, things are happening. We got to move on to this this faceplate and the door jamb. Otherwise, we'll never get it done. So, well, how are we going to get this verdigris color? Well, it's like a million colors on that doorknob. There's rust, there's green, there's even some red. I saw it. And but I'm going to do a dark, same thing that I did with the door. I'm going to do a dark, medium, and light treatment, and then we'll add stuff over the top of it. So what am I going to do? I need to push some of this aside so that we have room. So I'll move this over here because we may use some of this later, or even pick up some of this color for harmony. There. All right, so let's see. It's a fairly light in value, so I'll grab a bunch of this white. I'm going to put this right in the lavender. Going to need some more white. And I got to the studio, and I only had this much left in the tube, and I thought, oh my goodness, this might not be enough. We are going to make it work. That's what happens. All right. And you know you don't have to squeeze from the bottom, right? They invented tube ringers. So you can squeeze from wherever you need to. All right. So I'm adding a little bit of Cad Yellow Deep. We're keeping this harmonious. It's got some of that lavender in there. So it almost looks like we're going in the same direction that we had before. Only instead, I'm going to grab, okay, just a touch, and I mean just a touch of this phthalo turquoise because it will take over. You can barely see that I have anything on my knife. See, just that little bit really took over. Let's see how close we got. Dang, that was good. First time out of the, oh man. I thought we could, because sometimes you could mix for days to get that. That was awesome. Okay, my teacher used to have me, how he'd have me mix color and how I learned to mix color is that he would give me paint samples from the regular paint store, and I would have to mix straight tube colors until over and over and over until I could match the paint sample, and I would put a dab on the paint sample and you couldn't tell the difference, and then he'd know that you got it. So that's how you learn. But the same thing goes, but the questions that we talked about in the beginning of the show are what you ask yourself: is it lighter or darker? So if it's lighter, you need to, if it's lighter than what you're mixing, you need to add more white. If it's, if it's darker, darken it down. If it's brighter, then you need to add more warmth to it. So it's the same questions that you ask yourself. All right, so that's a good light color. I need to make a medium tone. I'm going to grab some of that mid-violet. So this is going to be totally harmonious because I'm grabbing things from the same family. Okay, so I'll add a little bit more of this Cad Yellow Deep. A little more. This is probably going to be too much. Woo! Look how bright that is. I'm glad this happened so you can see what happens. All right, so I'm going to tone this down. Instead of the orange, which is just going to make it a, if I added orange to it, it would be just a bright, I wouldn't like it. So instead, we need some red. We've gone all the show without having red, so I'm going to throw some red in there. That'll help. Oh, that's nice. It's a good shadow color. How are we doing there? It's a little too blue, so I will add a bit of orange just in case. Just a hint. That's another one that takes over. All right, maybe a little more. All right, I like this color, but does it work with, no, it does not. So this is one of those where it takes a little extra finesse. So I'm going to pull some of this over, add a little more of the blue, phthalo turquoise. There we go. Now these two are harmonious together. See, I'm doing this before we ever hit the canvas because I know they're friends here. They'll be friends when we hit the canvas. Because if they're fighting here, they are not going to be happy together over there either. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to I will eventually throw some rust color over the top, but this is a good mix. All right. Let's get some painting down. Okay, so I drew all the little intricate things, and then I realized that on the show, this is not going to work. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to do the dark, medium, and light side of this faceplate and put the design over the top. All right, so where do I see light? Pretty much where it hits the plate. So this is light here. I'm going right over what was there. You can tell that this keyhole was not used much. There's dirt and dust settled inside there. The actual door the knob that they actually used to secure the door was a deadbolt. But that did not make a good picture. Well, it might have, but I wasn't into anything that was that modern. Okay, so I just painted over the drawing. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. So for this little screw, we'll put that in. I like that it's fairly consistent with the door as far as the value. And the value by value, I mean how light and dark it is. There, that's good. We got a little shadow going right down there. I'm going to throw the rust color over the top. What did I do? I missed a whole spot, so that's all right. I will add it to the outside. So when I was drawing this, I missed part of the faceplate. So you discover things like that when you start painting. So that's all right. We'll just put it in now. I get lost sometimes. It just happens. There. A little better. All right, so let's put in some of the shadow. I better wipe this brush. Otherwise it'll be too purple. All right, so we're putting in some of the shadow for under this knob right here. I think I need a little more medium because it's not flowing really well. Okay, that's good. And then I will just add some of the dark areas right here, just so you get an idea of where it starts and stops. And that's just not lining up. That's just somehow it just messed up. So I'm just adjusting my drawing. And it's easier for me to see, I think, if I turn it. So I'm turning it once again. All right, so I see that this line goes right here, and I'm going to pretend like it's just right over the top here so that I'm lined up. That's good. There. It was a lot easier for me to see it that way. So turn it whatever it's going to take to help you see it, turn it that way. Okay, so we need to do the same thing with this knob. I'll go ahead and let's see, we got a little shadow going right here, so I'll put that in. It's a fairly round shape. That's close. There. And let's put in the knob. So where's the dark side of the knob is over pretty much, we'll throw in the little rings. That's about the only thing I'm going to put in. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. And especially when you're first getting it down, just stay in the flow. Okay, for the most part, it's dark just on this side. Light source is coming from here. It was later in the afternoon. Okay, so I'm going to step back and look at it. Okay, even in this crude state, you're starting to get a sense of light and form on there, which are some of my favorite things to paint. Not the object itself, but the light and the form. So I'm throwing in the darks where I see them. And then I'll throw some light down, and we'll meet in the middle. It's light over on this side. I just want to be consistent with the lightest light. Maybe throw in some straight, almost white over the top. And okay, so if you've seen the show before, you know that when we start off the painting process, every mix is carefully considered. And then toward the end of the show, I just start grabbing paint. And that's really what happens in a painting session. So I wish I could say I'm really methodical, but I start off that way. But as soon as I get into, la painting Shannon land, that all goes away and I just start picking up color. So the best I can do is tell you my thought process as I'm doing that. Because it happens. Okay, let's see. A little light here. And you know what? And I know this is something I don't see. This is one of those deals where something I don't see, but something I know. I want this doorknob to be a little more round. So in order to do that, I'm going to make the edges just slightly darker than I see them, because it looks like it's just all light over there. Oh, there's orange and red and all kinds of stuff going on, but we're going to start off with this, the base color. Okay, so it's darker here, and then we'll blend that with the dryer brush. There we go. That will make this thing turn. And then I'll throw in some light over the top. Oops. That was medium. That wasn't light. So I'm going to get a clean brush. Big clean brush. That one, I feel like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. This one is too soft. Oh. All right, this one's good. Why is it good? It's scruffy and it's a stiffer bristle than what I picked, so it will stand up to the abuse that I'm about to inflict upon it. And what I mean by that is instead of doing nice little strokes, I'm going to scrub it in really good. There we go. You can hear the difference. Throw in a little bit of warmth in there too. Just a little bit of yellow. Got yellow deep. So I just totally went over all that nice drawing of that great pattern that's on there. I'll put it in later. It's like a donut, like a green donut. Okay, we're scrubbing that in. I see a little brush hair that escaped. That's all right. We'll pick it out later. Okay, I'm just continuing to go in a circular motion that will kind of adjust this circular shape. And I will just softly blend this. Okay, so you're getting a rough idea of a doorknob. It's starting to look like that. Let's cover the canvas first before I start playing with anything. Oh, I've been playing the whole time, but you know what I mean. Okay, so I want a really, really dark area in here. Some people would just put black, but to keep the color scheme and the harmony, I'm going to put straight. Well, it's not straight. It's a combination of phthalo turquoise and dioxazine purple with no white. We're going to have a nice dark little keyhole here. And it wasn't that round, but it is now. All right, so what else does that shape do? It kind of comes out like this. And I can see dust and dirt and all kinds of stuff that's built in here. Whoops. I'm adjusting the shape. The cool thing about oils is that you can let them dry and make the shape perfect later. It's fine. Whoops. Okay, so I just painted an area that I didn't want to. So what would I do? I went a little too wide over here. So I'm just going to scrub that in, go over the top, and pretend it didn't happen. All right, there was some dirt and dust in there, so I'm going to take this scruffy brush, start at the bottom, move some of that up. Gives a little more character, a little more mystery. So we want a little more mystery as far as there's something else going on in there, and you can barely see a little bit of light, and you know you want to add some little something to it. So just throw in a little, just a little bit of just a little dab, and it gives it that mystery. And you know, I can't tell you, there'll be somebody at a show going like this. You just watch. What's in there? Okay, so we got to get these screws put in. They have a little bit more red and rust in them. Finally, we're getting some red and rust. Again, I'm going to start with stuff that's harmonious. So I'm going to take some of that green that we already had, add some red to it. Ooh, I like that. That is not the right red, but I liked it. I'm going to add just some orange and really make it rusty. Now that is just the ugliest color I ever saw. But I'll add some red to it. That'll fix it. I'll add some Cad Red Light, a little bit of quinacridone violet. Ooh, we got a nice rust color. Dang, that works out really well. Okay. I know, sometimes I sound surprised when I get a color. Well, and that's because sometimes it happens right away and sometimes it doesn't. But the longer you paint, it's going to happen more often. All right, I'm adding a little bit of light here just to lighten that up. Oh, that's nice. And I'm just going to have to throw in some straight red because I've been holding back for too long and I can't stand it. No, do I see it there? You know, it's not like I see something you don't. I just, you know, I've been good for so long, I can't do it anymore. Oh, that is like prettiest. That's the prettiest screw I've ever seen. I know, I'm going to get calls on that one. Okay. Definitely way before Phillips. Heads, okay, so that's different. And I'll just bring this color right up to it. That's way more interesting than it was. Okay, and what are we going to do about this other one down here? Since I painted over it, it was kind of down here somewhere, so that looks good. How about right here? And we don't want it going the same way because that'd be boring. Although I'll bet you there are people, you ever see Monk on TV? He probably goes around and makes sure all the screws on his light plates are the same. One of the cameramen in here does that. Okay, well, in honor of my friend here, Sean, we're going to make these line up. Of course, one's way smaller than the other one, but I can fix that. All right, so that's good. All right. Nice symmetry. We need some more red. That's good. It's way smaller though. I got to make that bigger. Okay, so how do you you know you're drawing here and you have nothing to base it on. So what am I doing? I'm going to measure. Okay, so it goes from here to here, and this goes from here to here. So I'm just going to make a little mark with my thing here and know that I got to go up here, and that's where it ends. So just use your paintbrush as a ruler, as a guide. Oh, I tried to make these line up, but they're not doing it. That's what happens at my house. Okay. Okay, well, I think I will add some red to it too, just to give it a little punch. And it has a shadow too that I didn't paint in. So it's time to do that. Just right over the top. Let's just pretend if that one was going like this one can kind of, that works. And I need to throw some light right over the top of these guys. So you could spend a lot of time just working on this little area. We're not going to do that. Okay, a little bit of light. That's still way smaller. There we go. A little bit of light here, a little bit of light here. Now the thing that we haven't painted is what really, what you're starting to see here is the quality of light, especially that beach light. I love the beach light. It's not as harsh as valley light here in California. It's got that moisture in the air. So, but you can totally see the quality of light hitting this door. So that was one of the things I liked. But I really did like the design that was in the knob. So I'm going to see what I can do about just adding that right over the top. Okay, so what did that knob do? Had little V's. I kind of like that. All right, so I'm going to go around just around this little edge. That works. See, now if you drew this whole thing in and carefully painted around it, well, there are some people that could do that, but that would drive me nuts. So I'd rather just do this and put it out over the top. I'm going to take this little brush hair out. Couple. Whoops. All right. What else are we putting in here? But I'm going to put some of these marks in with this rusty color too, because that's what's going on. All right. So we had the outer perimeter, and this is going to be sort of symmetrical, so I got to be a little more careful. Oh no. Not careful. Okay. We want to do just enough so that you can get an idea of the design and how to put it in over the top. And you know, don't worry in the first stages if it's not perfectly round, if it's not the, the perfect design yet. All right, so what am I going to do? I've got these roughed in. Yeah, and they're not quite there, but that's all right. I'm going to put in a little mark here. Now, instead of going all the way around, I'd mess up the spacing. So I'm just going to go across from each other. It's easier to keep it fairly lined up. I said fairly because, oops, because I'm just throwing it out here. All right, so we have that going on. And let's see, there's some squigglies right in here. Just throw that in. Okay, and then there's some more like a V-shaped design that only goes part way. And so on and so forth. You throw in a little squigglies here. This kind of reminds me of the beach. A lot of organic shapes. Okay, so there's tons of little shapes that we can start to put in, but we're getting toward the end of the show, and we don't really have time to do this. So what will we do? Well, I would let this dry and then go over the top and start to put in more shapes. And if I'm going to leave something and I want to go back into it, I want to make sure that there are not any rough edges over the top, in case I change my mind as far as where the drawing is. So even though I love what this is doing here, I'm going to knock this down with my knife. I'm going to knock that down. I'll see what else is. Of course, with this door, you could have that extra texture thing going on. I also like what this does. You know what? I'm going to do, okay, this is something that usually freaks people out. I go smear this right over the top, and it gets in, gets into places it's not supposed to, but it also kind of adds, a little texture. And then just go ahead and throw in a little more of the design wherever you want it. This has a more intricate design, so I'd put something around the edges. I see a little rough edges there. But that's a great start. So bottom line is, in an hour, you can paint the quality of light that you see. So take a simple object and do it with some outdoor light and really, really play with it. You're going to be amazed at what you can see. Thank you so much for watching Give Your Wall Some Soul. I'm Shannon Grissom.